The fall season is wrapping up at Quinnipiac, and many athletics teams are making their push towards a championship. Women's soccer season is over, while the men's team fight for the top spot in the MAAC. Field hockey clinched a share of the MAAC regular season title, and rugby team also heads to the postseason. We'll discuss it all here on Bobcat Breakdown. Welcome to the first Bobcat Breakdown in November, presented by the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network, where fall sports playoff reign. I'm your host, Nick Dench, and I'm very privileged to have the chairman of QBSN, Kevin Noonan, with us today. Kev, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Nick?
Also, the executive producer, Zach Daly. How are you doing today, Zach?
Good. I think this is the first time since my freshman year I have not been hosting Bobcat Blitz/Breakdown, so it's nice to be an analyst once again.
And one of the best sports minds here at Quinnipiac, Jordan Katz, today. Jordan, how you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading one of my many leather-bound books. My apartment smells of rich mahogany.
The most important time of the year is the fall sports team playoffs start up, and that's in the minds of all the teams. As we start with women's soccer today, who traveled down to the wide world of sports in Disney this past weekend to play in the MAAC Tournament. Once again, the team struggled to score, and they were knocked out by Manhattan in the first round. Guys, what can we take away from the team's difficulties to score going into this year? Jordan, we're going to start with you.
Nick, look, it's very simple. This team was a defensive-oriented soccer unit, and when push came to shove, they couldn't score. They really struggled to get quality chances on offense. You know, they would have chances off of set pieces, obviously, because everyone gets those, but their set pieces never amounted to anything, guys. And Zach, you look at this team. They put a lot of stock into a freshman, Jess Fontaine, and while she did everything she could, ultimately there was just not enough beside her to provide constant scoring for this team.
Yeah, Jordan, I got to agree with you. You and I were on the call for the Manhattan game, and we were talking how Jess Fontaine, she's got to be the catalyst for this offense, but I think they put a little too much pressure on the freshman striker. You know, everyone says offense wins games, but defense wins championships. Did the Bobcats have the defense to win a championship? Yeah, I think they did. But again, they didn't have the offense to win the games in the playoffs, and it was evident in their playoff loss to Manhattan when they lost 1-0. Granted, I was talking to a couple of people who were down there, and they said it might have been a fluke goal. But that goal in, I think, the 5th or 6th minute took them right out of it. Kevin, I know you did a lot of women's soccer this year, and I think that was the problem. You know, Jess Fontaine, they were just relying a little bit too much on her to be the catalyst.
I don't think it was so much that they were relying on Jess Fontaine. I think it was just that this wasn't an offensive team. Last year, it was the same sort of thing. They had Kamisha Woodfine, who was pretty athletic up front for the Bobcats, but you know, you can't rely on just one person. And just to put the Bobcats offense in perspective, they were 305th out of 323 teams in the country, scoring only 11 goals on the season. 3 of them came from Jess Fontaine, 3 came from Anya McKeever. 2 of McKeever's goals were penalty kicks. So you really kind of have to discredit that. And the other goal that she had was off of a set piece. So,
Kev, your point about Anya McKeever, 2 of her goals being off penalty kicks, that to me shows how much pressure they did put on Jess Fontaine. She at points in times was one of 2 forwards that were really up, and to me she was really the only forward up because they would play so much in their own third by design that they would look to constantly counterattack. That puts a lot of pressure on your top forward. And to me, Jess Fontaine, to ask that much of a freshman, I know how talented she is and I know what the coaching staff thinks of her, but that's a lot to ask of a freshman, especially when you have senior leaders on this team like Anya McKeever, like Beck Keating. I don't know. I think they put a little too much pressure on the freshman.
And speaking of Beck Keating, she's more of a defensive midfielder, and since they weren't getting scoring from players like Fontaine, who they were relying on a little bit, they had to move Beck Keating up into the forward 3. They had to move Anya McKeever up into the forward 3 towards the end of the season, and that wasn't paying off. Yeah, Beck Keating got a goal here or there. Anya McKeever got a couple of goals off penalty kicks, but overall, they just didn't click offensively. Defensively, though, they were fine. Natalia Grotsky was one of the best goalkeepers in the MAAC. I know she ranked up there in a goals against average and shutouts in the season. She was great for them. I know, Nick, you said you were a little critical of her at the beginning of the season, but she definitely came along well, and I think she's going to be the building block for this Bobcats team moving forward.
Yeah, just to put those numbers up there for you, 1.07 goals against average. She gave up 8 of her 16 goals in the first 2 games of the season. So, I mean, just really quick, you have to think about next year. The defense is going to be completely different with Taylor Healy gone. They're going to have to change their focus next year if they want to succeed.
And guys, while the women's team has struggled to score, the men's team is really starting to figure out the offensive side of the ball. And one of the main reasons has been the play of freshman sensation James Doig. And Taylor Massey has more with that.
Freshman James Doig is one of 13 international players on the men's soccer team that was convinced playing in the United States was a chance he couldn't pass up.
I've had a few friends that have done the same situation. I've had friends that have stayed in England and stayed at football in England, and then I've had friends that have came to the US and studied as well as playing. And they just talked about it to me. They just basically built it up and it sounded good, so I thought I'd give it a try.
Like many other international athletes, Doig went through an agency that helped post his highlight footage on YouTube in hopes of being recruited to play for a university in the United States. Lucky for Doig, he was brought to the attention of head coach Eric DaCosta, and DaCosta liked what he saw.
Yeah, it was definitely his technical ability. You know, his technical skill set is excellent. His passing range is fantastic. He has great technique. He can, he can strike a ball with both feet. He can, finesse a ball. He can, have a great first touch. So he has a lot of technical attributes that are superior in a lot of ways. For him, the challenge now is just getting adjusted to the physicality of Division I and the speed of play of Division I, and he's done a very good job of that, and he's coming along quite well.
Recruiting on a global scale offers plenty of opportunities, but communicating overseas is no easy task, especially under NCAA regulations.
At first, it's a bit hard because the NCAA only limit 1 phone call a week. So to get information across, if we were doing a few steps per week, it was hard. We had to, backwards and forwards emails, and the time difference was a big problem at first, catching each other. So yeah.
And depending on the country, it can be really late or really early in the morning when you're making these phone calls. So, like I said, the process is difficult, and you have to be willing to go through it and be detailed about it. And at the end, it's still a calculated risk that you have to make.
In the case of Doig, the risk was worth the reward. Now he can enjoy the benefits of what DaCosta believes is a unique system.
Our system here is so unique. It's a lot of countries don't give you the opportunity to study collegiately, get a higher education, and play at a high level. A lot of these kids, and James is definitely one of them, they have to make a choice at a very young age. Do I want to try to be a professional soccer player, or do I want to, continue to pursue my education? And you can't do both. You can't do both at high level. So the United States offers them that unique opportunity to play at a very high level and also get higher education.
Thanks to recruiting agencies and coaches like DaCosta, international athletes like Doig have the opportunity to get the best of both worlds playing a collegiate sport. Taylor Massey, Q30 Sports.
Thanks, Taylor. Along with Doig, the men's team has been getting contribution from Sam Nickel, Toby Esch, and Brandon Straingood. How has the added offensive scoring helped the team clinch a playoff spot in the MAAC?
Guys, I think the emergence of other scorers not named Simon Hind and Marshall Baker makes this team one of the deadliest teams moving forward into the MAAC tournament in a couple of weeks down at Fairfield, because their defense, now that Borja and Goita's back, is, in my mind, easily the best defense in the conference. So I think they're going to be very deadly moving forward, especially if, you got Doig going, you got Esch, who got that goal off the header a couple of weeks ago. Kevin, I think this team, they can make a run and challenge Monmouth for the MAAC title.
But can you really call it an offensive emergence when Marshall Baker scored 1 goal since September 2nd. Toby Esch has 1 goal on the year. Sam Nickel only has 2 goals on the year. Can you really call it an offensive emergence? I think you can,
because now you're getting scoring. Simon Hind, one of the top goal scorers in the MAAC. And before, I think a couple of weeks ago, it was only him and Marshall Baker who scored.
I think you're outside your mind.
Yeah, you are crazy.
I think it is an offensive emergence because you're getting multiple goal scorers. So you can't just focus in on Simon Hind anymore. But you have to focus in on other people's. And unlike the women's team, Borja and Goita can throw up 0 after 0 on the scoreboard. He can help lead this team to a MAAC title. And I think because you're starting to get scoring from Straingood, from Esch, from Doig assist-wise. Nickel, I think this team's going to be fine scoring-wise.
Jordan, before I let you talk for a second, just got to throw this out there. The Quinnipiac men's soccer team has 44 offsides on the season. That's about 3 a game, which leads the team. So that offense, you say they're emerging offensively, but they're really struggling.
But how many of those offsides have been Marshall Baker? And
it doesn't matter who it
Joey?
is.
I think there's where you got to draw the line. You got to, limit them. Yes, they're very talented scorers, but they remind me a lot of a Fernando Torres who loves jumping off sides. If you can limit them, then I think you're going to be fine. Start them if you have to. Get them, see how they're playing in the game. But if they're not, you pull them out. You put someone in like a Justin Ward.
Listen, Zach, to be honest with you, I think you're outside your mind. Listen,
Well,
this team's strength is their defense. This is not a great offensive team. Yes, they've had some scoring as of late. I won't deny that. But this is not an offensive team. The bottom line is this team's season hinges upon one player, and that's Borhain Goita. He has to be at his best during this stretch run, plain and simple. They're not going to get that offense. They're not going to get 2 goals a game, averaging 2 goals a game, in this tournament. It's not like the offense is going to get that hot. This is an offense that could score 1 to 2 times a game, and then they're going to have to rely on their defense. The bottom line is for this team going forward, that defense is the key. Sure, offense can win games at points and times, but defense wins championships. How many times do we say that, right? This team is built upon their defense. Is their offense a strength? To me, no. I don't think it's a strength. I think it's actually a weakness. But I think their defense is so good. I think their defense is so good, Zach, that you're right. They can make a run.
I agree with the defense being the strength of this team, but I wouldn't go so far as to call the offense a weakness. I think it's a work in progress, and it's getting there. It's definitely not the team's strength, but it's not that much of a hindrance where it's going to hold them back.
Yeah, guys, I don't think this soccer team is definitely getting more offensive pressure. 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was just Simon Hind because Marshall Baker wasn't playing. Now you have Sam Nickel, Brandon Strangood breaking through, and then you also have Toby Esch, who scored the first goal that was not named Simon Hind or Marshall Baker, and you can't say the key player on this team is Borhain Goita because he didn't play in 3 games.
Nick,
and they went 2-1 in those 3 games.
Nick, very simple. Do you trust this team to go down 1-0 in a tournament game and come back and win?
I'm not sure about that, but we'll see.
I personally don't either.
I don't think they're going to go down 1-0 in a tournament game.
Guys, they have 2 more regular season games to figure out all these things, and those are both this week. They head to Fairfield next week for the MAAC Tournament with whatever seed they get, and when we come back on Bobcat Breakdown, we'll discuss women's rugby and their playoff run, so don't go anywhere.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken with cheese for just over $4, giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q-Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. We move out of the MAAC and into the Northeast Rugby Conference for a little bit, where women's rugby has their playoffs this weekend, and they're the #1 seed, finishing out this season 6-2, earning a first-round bye. Kev, you're our rugby aficionado, so I'm going to ask you first. What has been the key to this rugby team's success?
It's plain and simple, Nick. The key to this team has been Natalie Costco. She has 30 tries on the season, which equals 150 points. She has been absolutely huge for this women's rugby team. And, I mean, you can't really forget about all the players in the middle, like Taylor Schussler, Lindy Wise. You can't forget about those players in the middle that create this open space for her, because what they do in the game of rugby, you want to try to punch it through the middle, which will then open up on the wing so that they can get the ball to Alana Orlando, who will bring it out to Elisa Cuellar, who will hand it back out for Natalie Costco. So you have to rely on Natalie Costco out on the wing, but it's a completely team effort that allows Natalie to be so successful. And I'm not sure how far, they are. I don't know if they're the #1 seed because Norwich University was undefeated in the conference. So Quinnipiac with 2 losses, they might not be the #1, but they're definitely the 2 or 3. But, this is a team that's extremely good, and they can make a lot of noise, not only in the conference but on the national level, just like last year.
And I know they have a first-round bye going into the tournament, and, rugby's not my strong suit, but this team's winning now. They started off the season, they lost those 2 games, and I think you and a couple of the other rugby aficionados were a little bit worried about the team. But now they've won 5 straight games. They're going to be fine going into the tournament. Natalie Costco, like you said, 150 points on the season. If she can keep going strong for this team can definitely make a run in the playoffs.
Just for the record, I wasn't concerned about the team at all. They were playing completely new competition that was 10 times better than the competition they played last year. Norwich University lost to Penn State in the Division I National Championship last year. So, playing against a lot better competition.
And how do you guys see this rugby team doing in the playoffs and in this conference when they have won 6 straight games, and that's been sustained success now? They're starting to blow teams out like they did last year.
Well, you can't really take anything away from those blowouts for the last 3 games of the season because those teams weren't nearly as good as the teams they played in the first half of the season. So I completely discredit those games just like I kind of discredit what the teams they played last year. Not that that was a bad thing, but that schedule last year was perfect for the growing of this program. For the team this year, for this tournament run, I could see them making it towards the championship game against Norwich University. That's who I think they'll end up playing against if that's how the bracket works out. Once I get that information, I will certainly break that down for everybody. But I think this team will make it to face Norwich in the championship. I was on AIC's rugby website today, and it looks like Quinnipiac's playing Army in the first round. So we'll see how they do with that after this weekend's bye, but we'll see what happens.
Kev, could this team beat Norwich if they played them?
I think if they come in with a different mindset than last time out they came in with the mindset that they could win, but the first time they saw Norwich take the field, score their first try, Coach Carlson said they kind of stepped back and were a completely different team than she'd ever seen before. So I think if they completely focus and don't worry about how good of a team Norwich is, they can play with them.
I think it's going to be a little tough for the Bobcats to beat Norwich State in the finals. I think they can definitely get to the finals, but I just think that Norwich State team's a little too talented for the Bobcats. The Bobcats can definitely give them a run for their money, but at the end of the day, I think Norwich State can take it.
With the hiring of Becky Carlson and seeing how she's made this team get so much better over the last 3 years, do you think that one time playing Norwich will help them out in preparing for that game, possibly in the championship?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely huge for them because now they know what to expect. Norwich is really the first good team they've played since probably their first year because in the first year of the program, the players were still learning the sport, and they played against Eastern Illinois and got blown out by them. Rutgers got blown out by them. Second year, they started bringing it closer, and this year they absolutely smoked Eastern Illinois, which was one of the other Division I teams that they had played before. Now that they've played Norwich, who's another NCAA Division I team, and they see what they have to go up against, I think now that they know what to expect, I think they can better game plan, and at least if they don't win, they'll at least be competitive.
I think it's going to be very, very close in any sport. Whenever you see a team more than once, it's helpful. You saw it last year in men's ice hockey when Yale saw the Bobcats 3 times for the national championship game. So I think that the Bobcats seeing Norwich State this one time will help them. It's going to be a very, very close game, I think, but in the end, I still think Norwich State takes it.
Thanks, guys. We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk field hockey and discuss their chances at a MAAC title. Stay with us.
The Bobcat Shop, located at 1010 Sherman Avenue in Hamden. Your #1 choice for Bobcat merchandise. The Bobcat Shop features 2 floors of countless styles and colors. With a full 19,000 square foot screen printing and embroidery operation on the premises, Campus Customs and Simplify can design and decorate any garment or promotional product as quickly as needed. Stop in and say hi.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. The field hockey team clinched co-regular season champions with Ryder, finishing 5-1 in the conference in the inaugural season of the MAAC. The regular season title is the first by a Quinnipiac team in the new season. And Zach, you're our field hockey expert here. I'm going to start with you. What led to the field hockey team's success being the first team to accomplish that feat?
It's got to be the senior class. You hear Coach Becca Main say all the time that this senior class has changed the dynamic and the attitude that this program has had compared to the past couple of years. They have 7 seniors on this team, and when you have that much senior leadership on the team, you're going to see the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen all rely on the senior class. I mean, you have players like Amanda Danziger, Jess Rusin, Krista Romano, Jenelise Taylor, Kate Colucci, Kristen Engelke, and even a player like Casey McCreesh who can add a lot off the bench, they're going to propel you far, and that's the reason why this Bobcats team has been so successful, especially in MAAC play.
See, I'm going to kind of bounce off of you with the senior class. I'm going to say it's the defense that's been leading this field hockey team because they are third in the nation with 16 defensive saves. Kate Colucci and Amanda Danziger and Krista Romano are all in the top 4.
Seniors.
Yes, they are all seniors, but they're in the top 4 in the conference in defensive saves. Kate Colucci, 5th in the nation with 7. So it's this defense that has been able to not only keep the ball out of the defensive area, but they've been able to help out Megan Conaboy when she's maybe come out a little too far or had a shot kind of trickle past her. They've been able to help out, and I think you said it was the seniors. I said it's the defense. They kind of go hand in hand right there.
I think I'll back Zach on this one. Look, whenever you've got senior leadership, no matter what sport you're playing, that's a great strength when you want to try to make a deep postseason run. Jess Rusin's got 15 goals in 18 games played. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. When you're averaging close to a goal a game, you're doing something right. She's been terrific this season and for her entire career here. This team is gonna make this run with their senior leadership. Now, Zach, I remember you and I were talking before the show. This is not a place where they generally perform well, and that could be an issue for this team going forward as they try to make this run. But this senior class could have them poised for, in my opinion, a MAAC championship.
This senior class is the best one, I think, to ever come through the program. It's right up there with the class of 2001, who had Heather Cady, who was the all-time leading goal scorer and point leader until Jess Rusin broke it this year. You mentioned the field turf, Jordan, down at Ryder. It's a big home field advantage for the Bronx, but I think the fact that they're not playing Ryder in the first round, that they get to play Bryant in the first round, who they've played well against in the past. Yes, it was a very, very close game last Friday on Senior Day when Amanda Danziger scored the game winner in overtime. But I think that playing Bryant, who's also not used to that field turf, is going to help him kind of get the feel down. It's going to help. They've played this team before. They've had success against them. And then they can get all their worries out in that game, hopefully go up against Ryder in the championship game. They were down there earlier in the year, and they led on that field turf for 66 minutes. Ryder scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of play to win that game. So the Bobcats know that they can play with Ryder on that field turf down at Ben Cohen Field. And that, I think, is just going to make them hungrier for that championship. And speaking of that, I have not seen a team want a championship more than this team. They want this year because they know this is their 1 year to win a championship, because you got Fairfield coming into the MAAC next year for field hockey, and they're always one of the national powerhouses.
I don't think you can discredit Bryant just yet, because this team has to go through Bryant first. They can't even be thinking about Ryder or Robert Morris, who possibly could face in the championship.
I'll be shocked
but
if
you
Robert
can't,
Morris wins next
you can't go past Bryant, because they have Megan Hancock in goal, who has a .757 save percentage. Her numbers are slightly better than Megan Conaboy across the board. Yes, in that overtime game, the Bobcats pretty much controlled the field of play. I'll give you that. But they have Megan Hancock in goal, and she's been able to keep Bryant in there. Bryant beat Ryder. Sure, it was a home game for Bryant, but they beat them. So this is a team that's very talented, and with Rosie Bird leading the offense for
But
Bryant.
Rosie Bird is the only offense they have.
Hey,
she's
doesn't
got
matter, it still helps.
Guys, to back Kev's point real quick, whenever you have a terrific goaltender, you can overcome other things. And the answer for a great team, for a great offensive unit, is always a hot goaltender. So I completely agree with Kev that you can't overlook this first-round matchup if you're the Bobcats.
She shut
This
down.
is going to be one of their tougher matchups.
If you look at a hot goaltender, though, Meg Conaboy is as hot as they come. She comes into this game with back-to-back shutouts.
It's a great point.
That's
Somehow
huge for this
just a great
team.
defensive
She has
player.
3 shutouts in their 5 conference wins this year. So that's something you got to look forward to as well for the Bobcats. Strong defense, strong offense. They're the only team in the conference with 4 players in the top 10 in scoring. That's huge for them. They have 3 of them being seniors in Kristen Engelke, Jess Rusin, and Jenelise Taylor, but you also have Danielle Allen up there. So it's a very balanced team, and you have the defense. You have Meg Conaboy, who's coming in as hot as you can ask a goaltender to come into a playoff game.
And Nick, you mentioned the defense, and I want to go back to the point you made about the defense being the reason why this team was so successful this year. The reason Megan Hancock has those inflated numbers is because she's had to make so many saves. The defense, that back line of Osanich, Colucci, and Danziger steps up, so Megan Conaboy doesn't have to make as many saves. Her numbers may not be as good as Hancock's, because that's because it's a smaller sample size. That back line of the Bobcats cannot be underestimated to the reason why this team's success. And you said it earlier, Kevin. That's one of the reasons why I think the Bobcats can beat the
Don't discredit the Bulldogs' defense either, though. They have Mallory Hancock, who is second in the conference in defensive saves, and the team as a whole is second in the conference in defensive saves. So it's not really an inflated thing. They just run into teams who have a better offense overall, so you have more teams shooting at you. Megan Hancock is a very proven goaltender.
And the Bobcats' offense is one of the best in the conference. Jess Rusin, Jenelise Taylor, Kristen, we've already mentioned these names. This is a team that can put shots on goal.
If the Bobcat offense controls the pace throughout this run, guys, to be honest with you, I don't think they get beat. I don't even think Ryder beats them. I know the Bobcat struggles playing at Ryder, but if they can control the pace, they control the tempo of the game for this run, to me, I think they are the most talented team in the conference.
But you can't overlook Bryant. I'm not trying to say
they definitely are not overlooking.
Yeah, but you guys are every point you guys are making is that they can beat Ryder. They have to worry about beating Bryant.
But they've proven
first.
they can beat Bryant.
It doesn't matter. They beat him last week. You have to prove that you can beat him again.
Listen,
every game is different.
Not to go back to one of the moments that we dislike on this campus as a student organization, but the Quinnipiac men's hockey team also beat Yale 3 times in the regular season by a score of 13-3. So to back Kev's point there, I mean, you can't overlook anybody, even if you've beaten them multiple times.
Yeah, guys, the Bobcats have the number 2 seed, losing the tiebreaker to Ryder, and they're going to take on Bryant, as you guys have mentioned a lot. What's the key for this team to be successful at Ryder? First, against Bryant. That's the big one. You cannot look forward, and this team knows that.
I'm going to have to say the offense. Kevin, I know you mentioned the defense is going to have to stand strong, but they only put in 1 goal against the Bulldogs the last time, and that came in overtime. They got to get better quality shots on Megan Hancock. Some of the saves she made were extraordinary saves that were very nice, but there were some of the saves that she made were very routine. You got to get better passes into the circle. If the Bobcats, I think, can put more quality shots on Megan Hancock, that's going to be the key to beating this team, and that's going to be the key to going to the finals.
I couldn't agree with you more, Zach. I mean, I hate to agree with you on this, but you have to score. You can't win if you don't score. I mean, they can get a shutout from Megan Conboy again, but if they don't score, it's not going to happen. And it took them till overtime with Amanda Danziger off a penalty corner to win the game. So I think if they can get a goal from Jess Rusin or Jenelise Taylor, anybody, whoever scores, I think this Bobcats team can beat them, but the offense is going to have to come alive against Bryant. They couldn't do it last week. We'll see if they can do it again or do it for the first time this upcoming weekend.
I think the senior leadership's the biggest deal. This is your last run, and this team has a bunch of talented seniors. So I think you guys covered the offense very well. We know what this team can do defensively. I think the senior leadership is going to anchor this run.
And
it's the depth. Go ahead, Nick.
Quickly, guys, you got to look at Amanda Danziger. We're not mentioning her enough on the offensive side. She's very good defensively. She's first on the team in assists. Don't forget that. So they run that corner offense through Danziger.
And again, the depth of the offense, like you said, you have a center back in Danziger coming up and leading the team with 8 assists. But you have Engelke, Rusin, Taylor, and Allen, all who have more than 5 goals on the year. You don't know which player to mark if you're the Bobcats, if you're the Bulldogs, I'm sorry. If Rusin's having a bad game, you can go to Allen or Engelke. If they're having a bad game, you can go to Taylor, Rusin, or even players like Danziger. She has 4 goals on the year, too. She can score as well. The offensive depth is going to be a lot for teams like Bryant and teams like Ryder to compete with in the MAAC tournament.
All right, guys, really quickly in one word, who wins the MAAC conference this year? MAAC tournament this year?
Kevin.
I'm going to say Ryder. I mean, they're hosting it. It's at their field. They know all the nooks and crannies of that place, and it's on the turf that nobody in the MAAC seems to like. So I'm going to take Ryder.
Jordan?
Quinnipiac. To me, I think they're the most talented team. And even though they struggle with the field of play, I think their senior leadership will do the job.
Bobcats over the Bronx in the championship game. This team wants it more than I have seen any other team, and they have the talent and the confidence to go on to Ben Cohen Field, beat the Bulldogs, and beat the Bronx. Bobcats win the MAAC championship.
Thanks, guys. That does it for this week's episode of Bobcat Breakdown. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to follow QBSN on Twitter at QBSN and check out theqbsn.com. Also follow Q30 Sports on Twitter at Q30 Sports. Have a great first week of November, Bobcats, and until next time, I'm Nick Dench. This is Bobcat Breakdown.